start streaming. Oh my god, here we are. Oh my god, here we are. Alright, we're gonna be good. This is gonna be fine. Whoo! Let me get the main channel on screen so I can tweet. Shit. Go to YouTube, you bastard. My channel, you whore. All right, I have to change the dashboard, don't I? Okay, so. Oh, fuck, that's a hot burp, bitch. Okay, so. Oh, fuck, that's a hot burp, bitch. Okay, so. Oh, fuck, that's a hot burp, bitch. That's a loop I can get behind, man. Just kidding. All right, this is where I do my social media parts. Oh, wow, there's a huge conversation happening in here. No! Oh my gosh. Oh, whatever I've left over there is like glue. All right. So we're not recording yet. That's a slight reminder. Okay, this should be ready. Preceding the recordings, we're going to play some horror games. I don't know which ones yet. I got a few ideas. I don't know if people are interested in Bendy or not. I know it's pretty popular for people to play, but I wouldn't mind taking a look at it. I haven't really played it. I've seen it around. Then probably art later. Someone went live. I think it's that Con TV. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we have so much for this one too, because I also have some Oreos to try out. Fun! Did I already post? Alright. So I'll have to put this over here when I get to it. Got it. Nailed it. Okay. That's enough of me looking slack-jawed at the camera. Let's get the camera looking good. How shall we? Configure video. Alright. Brightness can come down. Contrast can come up. Yeah, sharpness a bit. White balance. Okay. Backlit? Not really that backlit. Apply. That's a bit better. Okay. So, can I do this? I think if I get close enough. Okay. Let's start recording. Welcome. This is the philbunny. Play with that microphone more, would you? Hey, is anyone out there? Is this thing on? Merciful fuck. Hello, my name is Bunny Perspective Creator Michael Bennett. That's my full legal name. My parents were very but this has been my destiny. I was conceived to create the bunny perspective. And this is Stone Vlogs. Time for fair and balanced news. But first, makeup tutorials. Yay! So I've had So what we're using today is a 3-month and 6-month-old CoverGirl Intensify Me and Infallible L'Oreal Paris Black Noir. We're using both because they're both running out. So to get the coverage we want, we have to use a little extra. Oh, this is harder than my bathroom mirror by a little bit. All right, but don't worry, kids. I'll make it work. Oh, fuck everything. Oh, everything gets bumped. Ugh, mercy. Okay. All right. Okay, first off, you need eyes. Now, if you don't have eyes, your effect is probably going to be just as good, because I'm just trying to get my eyes as black as possible. So, what I do, okay, is I just go like this, and I just draw around the eye on the bottom, okay? You know, just like, because your eyes are shaped, just follow your eye. So I pull my eyelid down, I try to, well, usually I have a mirror. It's harder to, you see? Now, I know what you're thinking. Ow. I know what you're thinking. Michael, doesn't that look bad? Yeah, this is half the idea. And you just go crazy. Get that eye as black as possible. All right? Because hitting yourself in the face, it hurts too much. And buying eyeshadow is buying 2 products. And if you go up there and hand the lady behind the counter 2 makeup products as a guy, they might say something about you, and you can't have that. You might have to, tell them, you might have to, keep a dirty, deadly secret. So you're just trying to get your eyes, and then just take your thumb in there, finger, and just smush it out like you did it intentionally. Yeah. And you just work it in. Yeah. Yep. Looks pretty good. And then maybe I'll just like, again, it's hard to. Yeah. There you go. And that's yeah. Oh shit. You don't wanna. Yeah. You don't wanna. Shit. Christ. Okay. So if you do that, just run with it. You know what I'm saying? Just go with it. You know, and then just make an upside down cross. And you're good. I can't. This is hard to do. It's harder than it looks. You just do a little upside down cross. And it's, oh, that's the worst upside down cross. They'll be like, oh, he's mushed off a swastika, for sure. Swastika mushed for confirmed. You know, and then just, you know, you're just, at this point, you know, do the makeup for what you're doing. So, you know, this is probably fine. You know, for this. You know. For myself, I like to make, you know, I bring the lines down. Yeah. I'm not feeling like, if I'm feeling particularly frisky, I'll just keep going. You know? And like, flare it out. You know. You're not supposed to look like a sane person when you're done. What's this? I feel like, am I getting this? Yeah. Cool. So there's some makeup tips from your old friend, Michael Bennett, the creator of the Bunny Perspective. And if you want some more tips, just go to your local library. Oh, look. Now I'm a fabulous, sexy boy. Thank God. It was so unacceptable the way I was looking before. Unacceptable for me. Because if I'm not a sexy, sexy boy, I mean, I might as well be a dead boy. Where's my hat? Ah! So we've learned the best way to do this hat is like that, and then you put the goggles on after. Then you can centralize your goggles. I don't think, I had one viewer for a minute there, but I think they left when they realized the makeup tutorial was bullshit. Do I wear lipstick? No. It's not because I think it's particularly sexist or not, or like, I don't know how I would look with lipstick, to be completely frank. I assume bad. But like, eyeshadow and eyeliner, it works, baby. All right. You know what this means. It's time to roll that intro. Hang on. Do the intro one more time. Hang on. Here, one more time. Ready? All right. So, that was my makeup tutorial, the intro twice. And you saw the title of this video, so you know that, you know, last time I did a reaction video. I talked about shoe on head, and then I did a little video after that to kind of talk more about that kind of stuff. I've got a lot of requests for other reaction videos, which is great. I'm interested in doing them. I'm working on the bunny perspective. I've been working on some, and we're working on the structure of it. I was just teasing, by the way. I'm working on the structure of the first episode. In my mind, if this was the old days, this would be a much bigger episode than what I'd be doing here. But for what I'm trying to do, it's pretty ambitious. And then the next few episodes after that are pretty easy to write. It's getting this first one written that's been kind of a challenge for me. And you Patreons, as you may well know, I promise no numbers of Bunny Perspective episodes ever. I'm doing the best I can to get through this stuff. And working on these videos actually does help. We're talking about Anita Sarkeesian this time. Yay, fun. So let's talk about my complicated history with Anita Sarkeesian. I don't think she's wrong necessarily, but I certainly don't agree with everything she says. And I think that I understand why she tackles the topics the way she tackles the topics. But I wish she had a counterpoint to actually work off of. What do I mean? Anita is too blamey. And I think that's one of the main issues with the entire movement. It's not, and it's I'm not accusing men of A, being a part of the patriarchy, or B, not a part of the patriarchy. And if I'm admitting that there's a patriarchy, obviously I'm not talking about the people that just ignore that or just say there isn't one. But there clearly has been for a long time, which is why we're still in the middle of dealing with one in whatever, context that means. So, like, my point is, I never fundamentally ever disagree with Anita Sarkeesian. By the way, is it better with it? No, it's better with it on, for sure. Is this mic, do you guys, if you guys care, this is just a regular condenser mic, but I have a slightly better mic that I used for the other vlogs. Let me know what you think. I certainly can't remember if this was the problem or if it was the noise filtering. Well, speaking of which, yeah, this just has a gain on it, so that's what I was thinking. Any rate, you probably have already edited this out, Michael, and we get back to the whole point. Let's get back to the point. Why else are we here? So, when Gamergate was going on, I honestly don't really know how that ended up shaking out. I just know that tropes versus women ended up being this really the dense center of the black hole that was Gamergate. And I don't actually understand why. Because Anita Sarkeesian wasn't really saying anything that we weren't really aware of. But I feel like the extreme reactions were women's is trying to take his video games away. That was one reaction. Another reaction was just this person has no tact or has no way of explaining that these are just narrative tropes and that maybe we should consider doing less of them. Oh, and also they're kind of harmful at the same time. And I'm not trying to diminish the fact that I'm not trying to diminish anything that's been going on for decades and decades of boxing in individuals, because I'm the last person that wants to be boxed in as one type of person ever. Are you going to get to this reaction video? Yeah, sort of. So I was trying to find this specific video that Anita was talking about for Bayonetta, and I didn't really find it. I found one on League of Legends I think I'll have more to say about. But Bayonetta for me was always the bottom line for me. I'm not a big Bayonetta fan, okay? I've never played the games. I'm just familiar with the character, and I'm familiar with the lore of the character just by triple checking that I'm right, and that I just kind of pay attention to video games in general, especially ones that I kind of maybe would have liked to have played. Because at the time, it was sort of like a Devil May Cry, which I kind of missed. But at the same time, I didn't really miss because, I mean, how many of those have I ever finished? So, at any rate, but Bayonetta, she said that the entire point of the character is negated because men wrote the character to be sexual. And I'm like, you can make that argument, but it's not a very good argument. Like, yeah, you can make the argument that Panty and Stocking are both really poor female representations, but they're also chaos angels of lust and gluttony, respectively, and they're not heroes. They're just protagonists. Like they're actively villainous characters, and we as the audience most like Panty and Stocking when they shrug off a bit more of the excess and become more human. Like that seems to be ultimately the point. And then until the end, spoilers, Panty and Stocking, they're just scumbags still at the very end too. Like, who cares? You're not like they're not saying that Panty's lifestyle choice of sleeping around is good or bad. It's that she likes doing it and she doesn't care that society doesn't like it either way. It's kind of the same thing with Stocking and her eating disorder. Uh, so they're an interesting characters. They're written by men. You could write those characters as men very easily. The tropes would be very different because they always do them differently. But it's interesting because they very rarely represent a woman as gluttony. They do it in a way that makes sense in a arguably coded, gendered way. But you could say that generally, if a character represents gluttony as a male, it's also represented in ways that you could also declare in the same reasons that are female. So what's the difference? Well, you're punching down when you're punching women, and you're punching up when you're punching men. So why is it okay if women do it to women? It's the same reason why a racist joke isn't funny. Like a joke about black people being lazy isn't funny because everyone's lazy. You know, like every time I have these types of conversations, I always go back to the war on drugs because liberals, unless that's their thing, like unless the war on drugs is a thing that they specifically give a shit about, I find SJWs and others differentiate, like they distance themselves from people who are also discriminated on based on drug usage. And I'm very sick of the stigma of drug usage in this country. It's 90% of the reason why I don't think I was ever going to be fitting in with the Channel Awesome people, ever. And I know these Stone Vlogs, they really build upon themselves because all of these things do get together. Like when Tropes versus Women was coming out, I actually did want to start talking about, I wanted to do media about Anita Sarkeesian's series. And then Gamergate happened. And I was just now looking at Tropes versus Women in video games, Season 1 versus Season 2. If you look at the lengths per episode, it's very telling as to how much actual material she had. Now, am I saying that to be shitty? No. I'm saying that because I feel like when she was done doing 20-minute episodes per topic, she was kind of done. And I felt that the industry as a whole did take this seriously. And if you look at games now, they're the most diverse, interesting, especially in the indie market. Now, is Anita Sarkeesian only talking about AAA developers? Fine. But at the time that she was making this, the indie scene was not doing much better, and she made a whole video discussing that as well. But I would say the indie scene, which arguably is a more important scene for video games right now, is the most inclusive, the most interesting, and I don't understand on either side. I don't understand why Anita's still going after AAA, and I don't understand why people are defending AAA over Anita Sarkeesian. Because Anita Sarkeesian, no matter what you want to believe, is always punching up when she punches at these video game developers. You guys, these motherfuckers go on and on and on about Anita Sarkeesian's scummy money-making bullshit. And I don't understand where their barometer of, I asked for money and these people donated. She produced the series. It's not great. But she did it. Fucking Spoonie didn't do it. A bunch of other people didn't do it. Wario didn't do it. Wario's fucking movie money was gone when he fucking died. Wow, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, huh? Where'd all that money go? Oh, is that? So, I don't. When somebody goes, yeah, a fat white guy did this, and they're a fat white guy, I get it. And it annoys me the same way as anyone falling into their own stereotype fucking irritates me. Because just stereotypes bother me. They're boring. It's you know, I'm not gonna sit here and be like I'm a champion of justice, because I am. I feel like I am, because bottom line, injustice just irritates me on some level, on a huge level. And it's not just my own personal injustices, but I do wallow in those a bit. But I definitely take on other people's worries and frets and whatnot. I overthink a lot of stuff. So when Anita Sarkeesian did a whole series, and I agree with the entire first run of the series, and then the second series, I start going, well, this is kind of a reach. And I understand why, for the same reasons I understand Shoe on Head. And I don't really think this video is nearly as funny or interesting, or not interesting, but the video I picked, she goes on she has a long discussion about body types of women in video games. And I believe yada yadas over Saints Row, who have always had a very diverse body type selection tool in their thing. What Anita Sarkeesian doesn't really appreciate is when you, depending on what kind of game it is, especially if it's more cartoony game, animating fat people is different than animating not fat people. And sometimes a skinny base model Olympian god type character is just a little bit easier to make. And I know she did this whole video about women are difficult to animate or whatever, but everyone's difficult to animate, okay? But creative, interesting body types are more difficult to animate. At the time that she made this, League of Legends, I believe, had just released something like Kindred. I have to look at what the date is, but I believe Kindred might have been new. And she goes on this long tear about how League of Legends has no diverse female body types. Well, there's a bug woman. She doesn't look like a woman at all. She's a female bug monster. And of course, the problem with that is they should have given her a voice, but they gave her monster noises. And she's the only void character that has monster noises. So it stands to reason that this character was never supposed to be female, and arbitrarily they made her female. Which, fine. Make that argument, Anita Sarkeesian, but also acknowledge the fact that they're trying. Kindred is death, and she is, it's they. It's a she and a wolf, and the wolf is masculine, and the female is the lamb. And I guess if she really wanted to, she can make a bunch of arguments about how sexist it is portraying a woman as a life giver and man as a death bringer. But if you look at just human history, women get preggers and men kill things for women's. But in this character is supposed to be like ancient death, but whatever. What bothered me about Anita Sarkeesian from that point on, because she goes, Bayonetta doesn't count as a pro-feminist character because men wrote her, and men wrote her to be this fantasy. Well, Bayonetta was designed by a woman. When I draw men, I prefer to draw them sexier than I actually am. Other women do this as well. Some people... I also draw versions of myself where I'm fat and gross. Over here, see? Well, grosser-ish. Arguably, I still look pretty good over here. My point being, people draw idealized versions usually for a reason. And it's not just because they're trying to make money or titillate, but usually that's the reason for video games. What irritates me is the same things that bug me about this are what bug me about a lot of other people. It's making sex or sexual encounters more important or more, I don't know. Sex being too mystical or something is this, like... See, I'm polyamorous, so it's hard for me to understand not having the ability to fall in love with whoever I encounter. And I'm not saying I'm going to fall in love with everybody I encounter, but boy, wouldn't it be really disappointing if you met somebody and you fell in love with them, but oh fuck, I'm in a monogamous relationship. Yawn, sniff, cry. So, like, you know what I mean? I get it, and I was really into that for a long time. My point being is, for a long time, I haven't really taken sex seriously. And it's not, I'm in the position, and this is me checking my privilege. I'm in the position that I don't really need to take sex seriously. Just the way I've dealt with life in this particular venue of romance, I can always get that frustration out, if that makes any sense. And lately, it's not my need for like a sexual encounter that's been frustrating me. It's the emotional encounter that I've been trying to find that I haven't been able to find, which is not a typical male trait. So I say all of this because the reason Tropes versus Women and season 2 specifically of video games and the freak show, they don't work because there's no humanity behind them. Okay? And it's all, you should feel bad, why don't you feel bad? When you compare it to something like Some More News, which is made by the guys from Cracked, where they just panic about the news and go, do you not know this? Maybe you should know this. I don't feel like they ever really, I mean, they judge me on the level of, you know, get off your ass, stop feeling, you know what I mean? Like, but like with Anita Sarkeesian, I keep feeling like there's nothing I can do personally to make this better. And I feel excluded from the conversation because of my race and my gender, which is exactly the main, I believe, argument of most of the people about this. Because again, Anita's talking about, air quotes, things she doesn't understand, which isn't really fair because video games are not an exclusively male thing. And it always disappointed me that when I was growing up, that was true. I mean, I knew girls that played video games, but not very many. And they knew I had a crush on them, and nothing usually came of it. So that's not like me just bitterly complaining about it. I'm saying, like, I have all the qualifiers of being an incel, woman-hating freak show. But even back then, when I was really desperate to get a girlfriend and really girl crazy, I always was referring to myself as a feminist. I still am, because we can't think of a better name, apparently. And I understand why Shoe on Head and others react badly to something that sounds like religion or whatever. I don't want to tell these assholes why they're assholes. They're assholes because they're assholes. Like, I feel like when we can't make the easy joke, when we can't sell the easy character, when this, when that is the main reason people are throwing a fit. But I also feel like the other reason is some people, I mean, there's a variety of reasons to not care, and I'll just talk about them now. One, it's fictional shit. Why do you give a shit? Then don't play those games. Play something else. Well, when Anita made the first round of video game, when Anita did the first season of Tropes versus Women video games, I feel like the idea was to do tropes versus video games, tropes versus women in video games, and then do tropes versus women in cinema, tropes versus women in television, tropes versus women in advertising, etc., etc. Because if you look at her earlier work, that's what she was covering. She had a whole episode. I wish she would have done a tropes versus women in advertising, because in advertising is the most stereotypical sexism on both sides I've ever seen. It's not racist anymore. I do say anymore. It's, unless you consider the just the cynicism of they record very similar ads with different races and then play different ads in different sections of, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless you talk about that kind of cynicism, and that's systemic and it's a bigger problem that I completely agree is a bigger problem. Like, I understand the wage gap. I understand all of this stuff. But, like, how do you, like, tell people, hey, it's okay if you like this stuff, but be aware that there aren't other choices at the time. And now there are choices. So that's why I feel like the show went to the freak show, but I feel like instead of hiring people who are funny but understand this cause, Lindsay Ellis, for instance, would have been a good candidate for this. Unless they did, and I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyone else could have wrote this better, but for the freak show is just unfun, boring crap, and it's just, it's just, you know, like, you really want to defend some of the bigger ideas, but then everyone can point to them nitpicking all this little shit. So, fuck. So the first argument against this is it's just fiction. It doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. The second argument that eye rollers and yada yada is this is censorship. You're trying to stop us from having the games that we want. The third is I believe they don't want mommy Anita Sarkeesian pointing her finger down at them and saying, naughty, stop playing these games. You're a bad person if you like these games. And then their lizard brain ticks off, well, I like those games, and I don't think I'm a bad person, so I'm going to say that she should get raped to death or whatever the fuck. And I'm not saying everybody reacted that way and then wrote a thing where I hope you get your face torn off by rapist wolverines who then rape your face that's been torn off. Or whatever the fuck you would say that would be fucked up and serious, I guess. Is, like, I just don't take it to that degree because, yeah, I feel the same way where I'm like, well, I don't want people to point their finger at me and go, naughty, you like something and you're bad for liking it because I happen to like Princess Peach. I happen to like the direction Princess Peach has gone in the last several years where she's had more agency. And I find it a little resentful that the Peach getting her own video game isn't quite enough to make her even remotely a feminist icon. I find it a little annoying that pretty people in general, and I'm not saying I'm a pretty person, but Anita, I would think, would jump on this bandwagon as just like a blanket pretty person. Like, Anita Sarkeesian knows that she could girl up hardcore. She knows it. We all know it. I know it. It's not me objectifying her. I can handsome up if I want to. A little. I could lose the belly weight. I could get real, you know, dad fuckable. I could. So my point is, I do respect pretty people, and I do respect that the prettier you are, the more often you're not taken seriously. But I also am cognizant of when pretty people are just complaining for no reason. Anita doesn't recognize her own bias enough, I don't think. I don't think she goes on and says, hey, I resent it personally more. She doesn't make it, this is what I'm seeing. Do you guys relate? And then involve people that way. It's too authoritarian. It's too, this is right, this is wrong. And I'm not saying that she's not always wrong with those things, but there are if you say that everything is right and wrong in these black and white terms, and you say that every little transgression is just as bad as this other one, then people yada yada this as well as they yada yada rape culture and yada yada male gaze and yada yada this. But she needed to frame this stuff in a way that makes people recognize that people are getting away with lazy storytelling. Jim Sterling can explain that, and it's not a man thing, But Jim Sterling can explain why a boring, sexy character in Metal Gear Solid is a problem in so many better ways than Anita Sarkeesian can. Specifically, he promised that there'd be an answer for why she's in a fucking bikini. This is like Whisper, or whatever her name is. They said there'd be a reason why she's in a bikini the entire game, and the reason is she breathes through her skin. So she has to be. And then everyone just goes. And also, wouldn't her, like, you could just wear a t-shirt and your arms would be able to breathe pretty easily, like all of your follicles. And then, like, so you're like, that's the reason is that you put like a 17-year-old looking girl in a fucking bikini and she's like oiled up. Why was she oiled up? People don't look like that when they're just sweating. Little beads of sweat. I mean, it looks different and it's sexy. And don't get me wrong, but there's a difference between how sweat looks and oil. She looks oiled. She looks like she's gone to an oil wrestling match, and where there was another girl with D cup tits or something, and her name was like, Rhonda the wench, and like she was more milfy. And then they would fight and make out or something, and guys would throw tips. There's a time and the place for sleaze, but it wasn't that Metal Gear game, Metal Gear whatever the fuck with the fucking shit. Was like everyone, the gameplay was unique and creative and all this yada yada, and then like one of the side characters is the whore looking chick, and you're like. It's fine, but it's just like give her more agency for being nude than she has no agency over being semi-nude. Like her breathing through her skin is no agency. Does people not realize that? Like the reason I come to bat for Bayonetta is Bayonetta's character is A, a bad girl, B, she likes to dress that way, ergo it's her own hair. That's my point. Strategic, body language, lingerie, all the slender ladies. Now, I will also point out that I get very annoyed with how the intro of this goes, because she flashes an image of Morgana from League of Legends. And Morgana has not been the figurehead character of League of Legends, certainly not the female figurehead, I don't know, in how long. The figureheads lately have been Jinx, like as females go, Jinx, Ialaoi, Tristana. Sometimes some of the prettier ones, like Ashe, usually gets put up there, and Ashe is dubious, like she's just basic bitch looking. And what annoys me is I have a very, very irritated rant that I will go through on this too, because again, I don't think this is going to get to anyone that matters. I certainly don't think Anita Sarkeesian is going to see this. And I'm not going to prove in this video that I'm so much funnier than she is. My point, and I'm not sitting here like all these other little crybaby buttholes that go, yeah, but. But in this specific instance, I have a lot of yeah, buts. And I'm not saying she's always wrong, and I can't claim anything in the games that I don't know anything about. But League of Legends, I happen to know quite a bit about. This was September of 2006. So, League Champions released 2016. Oh, here we go. This will work. If we go back to 3 years ago, so Rek'Sai's already been out. Do we have Kindred? Do we have a Kindred? Where did Kindred come out? Kindred came out. Yeah, Kindred was out. Do I have a date? I mean, 3 years ago is 2015. All right. So, okay. So we've got some proof here of some characters in League of Legends that at the time, these would have been very predominant to see. Bard is technically genderless. Like, I do believe they refer to him as he because they just don't know how to write very much. But Bard really doesn't have a gender. He's like a amorphous being. Echo was the second ever. Like, she could have actually picked some really good things apart. Like, Echo's the second ever black character in League of Legends. There's only one South Asian female character. There's not a single female black character in League of Legends. There's not fucking one single female African American looking at all. And they just released this girl. I mean, there's your... I mean, like, I know that she was, you know, she didn't know this character was going to come out. This character design is so fucking lazy and garbage. And it's all the reasons Anita agrees. And I agree with Anita. And all I'm saying is she could have been stacked and everything just like this. Why couldn't she have been black? She could at least had more interesting hair. Like a big, curly, cool-looking afro or pompadour would even be better. Because I love pompadours on... Like Janelle Monáe wears an amazing fucking pompadour. Anything else would have been more interesting than another white chick with tits. Like, she's supposed to have been sucked into the goddamn void. Like, she's surrounded by ancient monster bug creatures that are like Lovecraftian nightmares. They're all like analyzing her. They're all trying to murder her and eat her. They're all saying fucked up things because like 90% of them can talk. Okay. And this is the character that's coming out of there, like, and she's so garbage. It's such. This is what Anita wanted back then, but she didn't have this back then. Back then they were progressive and interesting. So I want to put you back, even though I got a lot of shit to say about that character design. Like, even Zoe is at least interesting. Like, she's at least a younger girl. She has this cool. This in the game, this hair has this cool iridescent flowing look with the galaxies going through it. She's like a trickster god. Very interesting. These two, even this character who is slightly more stereotypically, sexy with the whatever. She's wearing clothes, you know, it's not, I mean, he's like exposed more than she is. He's also more flamboyant and girlier in many of the skins and everything for him versus her. He's the more delicate. Well, he's the support. She's the attack, damage, and kills. She also didn't give any credit to the fact that League of Legends, most of the female characters are attackers. Like they're competitive in a like they're not all just girly supports. Unlike Overwatch, all the girl characters tend to be supporty, except a very few who are offensive based. There's the girl with the, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, even character wise. Mostly, look at that again. I have to look at that. They tend to be more of the supporty type. All right, so let's do it. This is the actual me finally reacting to this video. I know, what a fucking clickbait piece of shit I am. That's Morgana right there. Now, do you know how many times you see Morgana like that? Also, Bayonetta's in there. I knew she was going to talk about Bayonetta because she got in the intro. Do you know how many times you see Morgana like this? You see her in her splash art, yes. and it's not much. I mean, it's not much better than this. Like she's wearing a bra and a skirt, but they are changing the characters all the time. Now, she'll never get any credit. Evelyn, I believe, is one of the more pro sexuality characters, even though, like, if you made this character male, she would come off as a rapist. And I understand what she's doing is still rapey, but she's also she's also a villain. B, she's actually a demon. She has no actual form, but she figured out that men are dumb when it comes to girls that look sexually alluring. So she is that stereotype. Yes, Tropes Against Women has a whole episode on this stereotype being bad. Is it better than nothing? It's better than nothing. But I hate that with these arguments, sexy is always bad because sexy is always demeaning, and sexy is always objectification. It's always this and it's always that. And I find that highly offensive as somebody that gets turned on a regular basis by the concept of things. Conceptual things turn me on in ways that physical things don't actually ever can match. And that's not a negative if it stays a personal thing for me or people that want to be involved in those conceptual things, right? So, your sexual deviance. Again, I don't like the term sexual deviance to blanket cover everybody that don't come the same way as everybody else, because it makes people who have maybe a serious problem have a harder time coming out with those problems. So if you label everyone that doesn't, come to the same gender that they're supposed to come to, depending on their situation, which is what a lot of these turfs do, which is what Shoe on Head does, which is what a lot of people do to a lot of people, and what Anita Sarkeesian sort of does to people too, in that making sex always about objectification and always this. Myself, I would prefer Evelyn to be much less overtly sexual curvy wise. I would have given her wide hips and a flatter chest. That's me, because that would further put her in more of a demon role where the character in silhouette would look very much like a thickly, boxingly woman, but it would make absolutely no sense for a demon to have actual tits because she's a demon. She doesn't need to breastfeed. And how close do you actually need to be to your target if you're doing what this Evelyn character does? Because if you're close enough to fuck this Evelyn character, you should have already been dead. Her character has these giant tendrils coming out of her back. But that they don't think about these things at League of Legends because they're not selling to just us. They're not selling to people who are like understanding that sexuality doesn't always have to be this or that or a weapon or whatever. They're selling it to a global economy, including a lot of Chinese people. It's not saying one thing or another to Chinese people, but shit gets changed in ways that you notice. Like for a long time, there was no Christmas skins specifically. They were always like wintry themed, specifically because their biggest market were Asian markets, Korea, China. And again, these aren't criticisms. They're just statements of fact. So they're marketing for these other people who... That makes sense. Hang on one second. This is part of the reason I don't have any internet presence. It's not that I wasn't making internet content back when those other fucking cocksuckers were making internet content. My family wouldn't take it very seriously. I can point to all these people that make a serious living at what they're doing just by taking it seriously. That's all they do, is they just take it seriously. Every time I try to take it seriously, somebody fucking comes into my life and undermines it. It's getting really goddamn irritating. That's why I'm really glad I don't live in that environment anymore. The bunny perspective came to a halt because of this shit. Because of what I was just talking about on the phone. Like, it was just like, my mom was like, well, Jason's coming to visit in June. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be moving in July. So why would can't spend any fucking money. Oh, okay. Well, it's like, what do you want me to do? Do you want to send me money so that I can come up there and then give me more money when I didn't make any money for not working for the 3 days that Jason's at? Also, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. It's typical. I hate my family. I don't understand people who like their families. All right, let's start recording again. I wasn't interrupted at all. Everything's fine. So, at any rate, I don't remember what my point is, but I got a phone call. But my point is, League tries. This is not representative of what you're looking at the whole time. I'm not saying it gets much better. There's one like she's a ghost bride, and most of the time her cleavage is out. I'm also irritated by that cleavage being out. It's a big deal, but there's a bunch of topless men in this game. Like, there's tons of topless men. Varys is he's fit, and like most of the skins he's in, he's basically topless. So I know it's not an equivalency because I know, but my point is, this is like Generation 1. Like, this animation came out so soon after League's inception that it's just not fair. It's not a fair representation of fucking League of Legends. When you whip out an image of Cammy or Chun-Li and they haven't changed at all, and they're still these, highly sexualized characters, that's not fair or that is fair because they haven't changed at all. But this isn't fair. This character just still exists. Like, eventually this character will get changed like some of the others. And, there are venues where you can petition to do that. But she doesn't care about this character specifically. This is just the most obvious representation that she can put in that's animated. It's close up. She doesn't have any context for League of Legends. And I get really irritated how she flippantly yada yada is over Jinx. Jinx, who's inspired by Tank Girl. Tank Girl being one of the more pro-feminine icon figures that I could think of. Definitely up there. And again, written by a man, drawn by a man. She's very sex positive. She's very progressive thinking. She's her own character who inspired characters like Harley Quinn and even side characters, just that mentality. And Tank Girl's an amazing character. Jinx is based on Tank Girl. I don't think that Jinx's character is hypersexualized. I think she got tattoos all over her body of bombs and clouds, and she wants everyone to see those tattoos. I think she wears weaponry. Everything she's wearing is part of this clownish weaponry that she's in. She also, it's like where she lives, it's indicative of the other characters that dress similarly. I don't know, man. If I was a pretty girl and I had a great fucking set of tits, I would wear things to accentuate my great set of tits. I wear suits to hide my fucking gut and shit. That's my entire point. I don't ascribe to this idea that it's a fictional character, therefore it has no agency. And it's like, well, but then why would you write a character then why do you want a character with agency then? Do you know what I'm saying? Then if it's not important, then why is it important to you? And if it is important, then why isn't the reasons for the character to do what they do enough? That's what my irritation. So it's not enough to give the character an identity and a persona if they're dressed a certain way. And I thought that was the entire point of why this is an issue. It's a mixed message because it isn't easy to understand and cookie cutter. The reason I get annoyed with Anita Sarkeesian isn't because I don't think she's doing important work. It's that I feel like she does it for the money. Okay? And I feel like the reason she didn't go tropes versus women in advertising, which seems like the logical successor to tropes versus women in video games, is because she knew she could get more money if she was going to do a second season to this. And if the second season is supposed to be on par with the first season, she failed catastrophically. And it's all because she got her main point out in the first part of those essays. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's basically a documentary. And I believe the industry has changed for the better. And if you don't believe that the industry has changed for the better, you're only looking at a small section of the games that people are playing. And I know indie developers, it's easy to roll your eyes and not care about them, but they make a big section of what makes money in video games now. And many indie developers are female, include female characters, have females on staff, yada yada, blah de blah. And more than that, there's different versions of things, from the very, very overtly sexual up until recently. Now I guess Hoonie Pop and all that's too racy for. Parents can't be bothered to stop their children from buying softcore porn. I always thought parents just like looked the other way for softcore porn so kids could fap. I thought that was what I thought there was a contract where parents would just look the other way with the softcore shit. Because no one was saying, jack off on my face, daddy. And no one had to explain what that means to a kid. Do you know what I'm saying? Were we watching a thing? I know. I just get irritated because this is so out of context and it's so representative of what the opposition to what Anita Sarkeesian constantly does to other people who have a legitimate point, because Anita does it. So because Anita says it's okay to break these rules, other people on the opposite side do the same thing. And it's the same reason I have a fucking huge problem with Michael Moore. Michael Moore is disingenuous. He lies in his documentaries, but it's all for the greater good. And that's bullshit to me. You either tell the truth the entire time, or what's the fucking point? You're not any better. If it's not a good enough narrative for you to sell, then you need to sell that narrative and admit, hey, this isn't that glamorous, but it's still important for these reasons. And that's what I feel like Tropes versus Women in video games Season 2 is. It's just good enough bullshit. And that's what this episode, versus as well as others, is indicative of. Also, you'll notice she drops the it's important to recognize that we can like something and criticize it bit. I think she should have left that in every single time. Unless I'm wrong.
At their annual BlizzCon event in 2014, the wildly successful game studio Blizzard Entertainment showed off a new game they had in the works called Overwatch. And from that first reveal, it was clear the appeal of Overwatch resided in its cast of characters, a diverse assortment of heroes, each with unique traits and abilities. The roster revealed at BlizzCon included men and women, sentient robots, and super intelligent gorillas. However, for all the apparent variety and diversity in the heroes Blizzard showed off at the game's debut, there wasn't much diversity to be seen in the body types represented by the female heroes. The male characters introduced that day included the towering knight Reinhardt, the sturdy engineer Torbjorn, the agile archer Hanzo, and the hulking simian scientist Winston, among others. The 5 female characters introduced consisted of the slender adventurer Tracer, the slender healer Mercy, the slender support character Symmetra, the slender sniper Widowmaker, and the slender but well-armored security chief Pharah. Overwatch was hardly alone in having all of its female characters share a similar physique. In Ultra Street Fighter 4, characters such as...
All right. So I know she goes on to talk about Mai and a few other characters. All right. So let's talk about why that's a problem and why I agree with it. It's a problem because it's boring and there should be more variety. And it's not because characters get put in positions, you know what I mean? Like, Blizzard did not hire just men to make Overwatch. She can't make that claim. Blizzard employs way too many people. Blizzard is far, far more concerned about how many female and gay gamers they offend. on how they make this game. They're way more concerned than Anita Sarkeesian is, okay? And that's not me like yada. That's not me dismissing her claims, because that's not what this is about. It is about discussing them. Is it a problem? Yeah. Some of those characters could have been more interesting. The girl, Zamatra or whatever, I can't remember her name. She's at least, an ethnicity for one, but she could have had like a prosthetic leg. She had like a prosthetic arm, which I guess wasn't good enough, because she's still had an hourglass figure or something. And I guess with a prosthetic leg, she could have also built. They could have played up she's handicapped and all that kind of stuff, which would have been good marketing. They should have made Bastion recognize itself as female. I think that would have made a really big indication to counter the Winston argument, because Bastion is not at all girly in any way. But it would be interesting if Bastion's base colors were purples or pinks, because it had gone out of its way to spray paint itself that way. It was actively a pacifist because it was cognizant that the other robots, and Bastion's a robot. It doesn't really recognize itself as male or female, but it's named Bastion. It isn't colored in a way that you would consider girly. It'd be an interesting dynamic, because this world of Overwatch has sentience and robots, and it'd be very, very, very interesting to see these military robots have a transgender amongst them, even though they're all supposed to be these, one-sided robots. How very biblical, how very Lucifer-like, Lucifer being like amongst these programmed things. So I'm not saying she's wrong. They did do that differently. There is a female robot that they showed up later that's got 4 legs. And so Overwatch definitely diversifies its body cast. But I would say, and I'm not saying League did it before them, because the percentage of body types for League characters of females that are actually interesting versus what she's about to describe is, not fair to point out. But I think they're trying to get a little bit better. They're failing in a lot of ways, but they're trying. Usually their answer is to give us more prepubescent girls, and I just don't know if that's the real answer. Or like teenagers.
Just Dalsum, Hakan, E. Honda, Rufus, and Vega represent a significant range of male body types. Looking at the roster of female characters, however, while some may be a bit taller than others or have slightly larger thighs, not one of them represents a notable departure from the slender body type that has been established as the standard of conventional female attractiveness. Similarly, when we look at the champions on offer in the hugely popular MOBA League of Legends,
all right, here we go.
We see the designers employing a
So I want to point out that literally every single one of these is a skin. So it's already like a little disingenuous, because the base skins have a bit more of a cohesion to the narrative of the game that they're in. But like, this isn't that far off of its original male character. Fizz, I don't know if Fizz identifies necessarily as male. It'd be interesting to make this character fluid. Yarick, yeah. But I mean, like the rest, they are interesting male characters. Urgot, I don't know why she picked this over Urgot's actual original art at that time, because his art was way more funky and weird. But whatever. These are all like optional things that you literally at the time had to spend money on. So it's a little disingenuous to say that that's what the characters look like. But yeah, okay, go on.
Wonderful range of body shapes and proportions across dozens of male characters. From the classic muscular warrior physique of Taric.
They don't mention at all that he's coded gay. And they don't mention, this is like his rework area. So wow, Taric's rework is going on a long time. So Taric's is a muscular gay character, but they don't mention that.
To the hefty beer belly of Gragas, to the cartoonishly disproportionate body of Dr. Mundo.
I argue that Dr. Mundo could be in a girl. Just saying.
There isn't any one male body type that is presented as the standard default male body type, and the value of these...
That's not true. She doesn't go over all the... That's not true. Oh, merciful fuck. There is a male default body in League of Legends. That's a joke. All right, so he subverts it. Rakan is a default male body, except he's got chicken legs. Okay. Oh, my God. Hang on. I got more. he's a weird gargoyle, fine. And so Irvin's a tree guy. But then, okay, here's a weird female body. Her legs are fucking these razor blades. And otherwise, she has normal, she's completely covered in both of her skins. Her other skin, she's like a robot. Okay. So there you go. There's a newer character that defies this fucking annoying rule that you just made. Kled, okay, he's a Yordle, so whatever. Here's another one. She's 17. All right. There's a male dragon. Could this character have been female? I guess, but she would have come off in a way that I think that a male dragon actually makes more sense. Alawi, of course, she does mention Alawi. So Alawi was out at the time of this. So everything before Alawi is fair game. But this guy, this guy's a creepy serial killer. And aside from him having a robot arm, he has the basic body type of a regular male. He's just wearing a mask, okay? I got more. Yeah, we got another fat guy. Oh, we can have big... This guy technically isn't gendered. This kid he's 17, 16-year-old, but fuck, I didn't look like this at 17 or 16. That's a pretty good-looking dude. I'm just saying, I can go... The further back I go, there's more. They've just now got diverse. Another standard body type. Yeah, he's wearing armor and a mask, but standard body type. She'll make the argument he's this crazy bird person, and that could be a fair argument. Here we go. Big, standard Arnold Schwarzenegger, bully, mustache having big guy. Lucian's a great example. He's their first black character. He could not be more standard. He looks like a Blade ripoff. Here's Yasuo. He is a whitewashed samurai. He does not look Asian by, samurai standards at all, really. I make a big argument that this is a bit racist right here. But, whatever, man. You don't want to pick out anything like that. Aatrox is basically like a normal body with a weird head. I'm not saying that there aren't a shitload of female bodies that are basics as fuck. But even here, back here, when things we're just barely starting to get weird, we had Lysandra. Lysandra, the way she moves, she has these crystals that make up her legs or whatever. And she's wearing this big armor, and the rest of it's just contouring her body. She's wearing this weird mask thing. I mean, just, I get that you want to pick apart really popular things here, Anita, but, be fair. That's my whole point. If you're not going to be fair, you're not any better than the opposition.
Definitely not connected to their sexual desirability. But when we look at the female heroes, there's nothing approaching the diversity we see on the male side of the roster. There are a few noteworthy variations from the standard. Illaoi is somewhat more muscular than many of the female characters. Jinx has smaller breasts, and there's the cute gnome-like Tristana.
But there's also, fails to mention, there's also Lulu, which is a tiny one. There's a girl named Annie. That's a young girl. More recently, of course, there's the other characters I showed. At the time of this recording, Rek'Sai had been out for a year, and casters were calling Rek'Sai a him the entire time because they didn't, they kept forgetting in lore, and they had to keep changing it. So Rek'Sai is a female character. She's a weird bug monster, okay? So... Am I saying that they went into Rek'Sai making it a female on purpose? No. But, their examples aren't really fair. Jinx is, yeah, she's got a flat stomach and no tits. But, I mean, she's not like all these other examples that she made out. And she just yada yadas, oh, she's got no tits. That was her whole point. And then the other point was, you could almost make this really, really, really good argument that this is a very confusing sexual character. This is a very, very sexualized character for what this character is. And if you look at her artwork, it's very strange that she's not wearing more. It's very strange the way, they don't make her sexy or anything. She doesn't say anything sexy. She's very sporty and bouncy. But there's a lot of strange implications. And it's also I'm not saying that you shouldn't be attracted to a little person that's stacked or whatever, because you should be attracted to what you're attracted to as long as it's, everything's all legal. But my point is, you can make some interesting arguments about these body types. You could even say, isn't it kind of sad that they sexualized even this character? But she doesn't do that. Okay? And she also yada yadas over Tristana, and she uses Ziggs in the same like converse example. Now Ziggs is also a Yordle, but she didn't do any research. She just mentions that they're the sprightly Yordles, but she doesn't talk about that they developed the race or anything, because that's not important to this argument. The important thing to this argument is, look, they put in too many pretty girls. And yes, they did. And a lot of us have been complaining about it, and it's changed. But she doesn't point out that it's changed. She just points out, well, they're still in the game. Anita, honey, sweetie, people grow attached to these characters. I know you're just showing up just to come here and go, well, here's another example. Here's another example. But you step into communities sometimes, and that's what really makes you so fucking irritating to people. It's why I find you irritating. Because if you did more research, you'd realize that there's a very devoted fan base to this game. And you'd maybe use this as a positive example of how things can change because how the community is represented and yada yada. And in the future, you could have come out and said, what the fuck is what with Kesai? But you don't give a fuck. You didn't get someone to come in and help you with this League of Legends stuff because it's not important. And that's where you get these people showing up accusing you of not being a real gamer. Because it's not that it's not true, because I believe that you play video games. But I know you don't know shit about fucking League of Legends. Okay? You know it's popular, and you know it's a MOBA, and I think you have a passing understanding of what a MOBA is. But I don't think you really understand. I don't think you know about Video Donkey. I don't think you know about the variety of YouTubers that play this game. That there are a variety of female Twitch streamers that use their own sexuality to promote their channels. And there could actually be an interesting conversation about pseudo web girl, cam girl kind of things with League of Legends. But no, you had to rush this out because you didn't really care about tropes versus women in video games. You were done with it when you were done with it. And it's not a shame to be done with something. But you needed to advertise more honestly and assume that you were going to maybe make less money by advertising something that would have been good for you to write. And I think what we needed after tropes versus video games was tropes versus women in advertising specifically. Because I feel like what you don't understand is what you did with this whole thing during Gamergate was you just profited, in my opinion, off the chaos of Gamergate. It's why I don't know what your numbers are now, but there's no way you're doing as well. Well, what is this? This has got 387,000 views. Okay. And then what?
Okay.
What's the first one? The first one ever. The first one ever has 2 million, pushing 3 million views. So the one I'm talking about, the one I'm looking at is nowhere near the number of views as this one. Because we all knew you were done talking after these were done. I know a lot of people were watching this specifically to shit on this video, but that doesn't matter. There's a difference in numbers. Now let me look at any episode, specifically the first episode, because shut up. Specifically your first episode of the Freak. I said shut up. The first episode of the Freak Show. Okay, so this one, is this the first episode?
Are you pregnant?
Shit. Oh my god, so loud. Oh my god, this title's terrible. Okay, this is the third episode. So 30,000 views. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. Okay. So what are we talking about here?
Are you pregnant?
Okay. So my point being with all of this is clearly one video was being made because it has an audience. And trust me, I feel that pressure myself because I feel like I can actually get some legitimate, real thoughts out with stoned vlogs that I can't get out with the bunny perspective. But I still got to do the bunny perspective, right? Because that's what people want from me. And I'm not, that doesn't mean I'm compromising on the bunny perspective. They're going to get the version of the bunny perspective I feel like making until they pay me more. And then I will whore out just like Anita Sarkeesian did. And I don't think it's a bad thing to be a whore, unlike certain people.
Okay.
I'm cognizant of the fact that it's often women and often women of color, and often they are made to be abused because underlying everything else, we as a society take sex way too fucking seriously. Sorry. If we took sex a little less seriously, I feel like we would have a lot less issues with this stuff. Men and women included. So whatever. Sex isn't the most important thing in the world, or it shouldn't be, but it also shouldn't, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be used as a weapon. It shouldn't be used as a tool. I mean, well, it can be, I guess. It definitely should be used to make money if you want it to be. Fuck. It's so stupid. I hate nothing makes sense to me.
But the overwhelming majority of female characters make it clear that a slender figure with prominent breasts is viewed as the standard for female.
Skin, skin, skin. Granted, this one she could have been wearing slightly more. She's supposed to be like a steampunk girl. Diane's regular clothing is a little less, like it's a little less revealing. This is a skin. This is, Ari is very sexually charged, but she's not quite the pop girl fanboy thing as she is here. I'm not just defending it, but this is a skin. It's not what she normally looks like. And Fiora has a far more sexualized skin than this. So again, I'm insulted that she didn't find the librarian skin where she's literally dressed like a fucking librarian. But she wanted to pick skins that people would figure these aren't actually skins. But you have to spend money to get these. And she could have made an argument about blah, blah, blah. She could have made that argument. She didn't make that argument. She's making the argument that base level League of Legends, because this is the implication is if you play League of Legends, you're forced to see this stuff. And it's like, the truth is you're only going to see these things if either you bought those skins or your opponent who picked out of 100 different champions who have 4 or 5 skins a person or a champion. You're running the risk of seeing any one of these 3 skins. Go fuck yourself, Anita. It's the disingenuousness that bothers me. It's the lying that bothers me. These other guys, they turn it into this other underlying thing where it's all SJWs are lying. It's not that. It's just like, why didn't you make the thing you wanted to make? Why didn't you ask for the money to make the thing you wanted to make instead of whatever this is? Because this sucks. And the freak show also sucks. So if the freak show is what you're trying to get to, it sucks and you should have had someone help you with it.
Female character design. Likewise, in Dota 2, male heroes can be handsome or comical, outlandish or grotesque, while female heroes are mostly relegated to being standard humanoid characters with conventionally attractive facial features.
I don't know. This is weird for me. But Dota 2, I can't say a lot for Dota in defense because I don't know if any of these are skins or not. So she's notorious for me having to be like, I don't know if Anita's being disingenuous here or if it's just really like that. But I mean, you could make a bigger argument that this is just unoriginal and boring. Like, why can't you make the argument like we can do better than this, guys? Come on. Why can't we be a little more encouraging than just this is wrong and you're bad for liking it, which is not really the argument that should be made. The argument should be this is boring and we could do better than this, and it's also kind of hurtful if you don't fit any of these types of body types. That said, it's not like people necessarily want to be a troll with their jaw hanging out, but you can make an argument there's too many male. So the argument is kind of the both argument, but whatever.
Characters with conventionally attractive facial features. Where are all the female rock creatures, skeletal priests, and whatever this thing is? This isn't just an issue.
I just feel like that's a lame joke. Like, you're a sci-fi fan. You've watched Star Trek. Like just She does these little fucking things that irritate the hell out of me is all. That's all. Little things.
In fighting games, MOBAs, and other titles that give players a range of characters to choose from, female characters across the board are often limited to that same specific body type.
I should kill you.
Doing all right there?
Stay away from her.
Sure you want to let him go?
Okay, but...
And this guy wants me to trust him.
It's as if male characters are free to embody whatever physique best communicates their personality or abilities, but when it comes to the designs of female characters, that kind of imagination and creativity often doesn't seem to exist.
So this is Gregus's base skin in splash art, and this is a skin of Ash, because her regular skin is a lot more reserved. Like, she's wearing a hood. Her cleavage is still out. She's still wearing a skirt, and it's still obviously a tundra, but whatever. And if she did any research, she'd go, this girl's supposed to be in the Arctic, and she's wearing like a skirt and everything. There's actually a better skin for her where she's like wearing a crown and a gown. But whatever. So, okay. So that's already a disingenuous thing. And I'm very annoyed that in that whole montage of body types, she just throws in random like beach volleyball. And a lot of people claim that these episodes are mostly clips and all this stuff. And I think these are the least like that. But they also flash by images where you just go, oh, well, bullshit. Because Bubblegum or Lollipop Chainsaw or whatever, I don't know, man. Okay, she's dressed as a stereotypical slutty cheerleader, and she carries around her boyfriend's severed head with her everywhere she goes. I get it. I don't get it. I'm just like, you can't see something ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous. Like, we can't have any fun. That's where I go, we can't have fun with sexuality ever. Like, they're obviously having fun with sexuality and we can't have fun with it. Then what's the point? Like, I just don't want this. Like, I don't want this answer any more than I want the other answer where everyone's shitty to each other. Like, she can make the argument that we need more creativity, which I think is a better argument. But she doesn't make that argument. She makes the argument that every little indiscretion is the worst indiscretion ever. And therefore, then you go, well, then the big things don't matter either, is my thinking. Because if you go, well, these little things are stupid. And it's not hard to translate that to the next thing. That's my entire goddamn point.
Rather than seeing such an exciting range of female characters, we mostly get the same body type over and over again. One designed to be sexually appealing to the presumed straight male player.
I don't like that.
This reliance on the same body type for so many female characters.
I don't like the line, presumed straight white male character, because League of Legends does not presume that their audience is straight white male. They presume their audience is Chinese, because their huge portion of their fucking audience is Chinese. And then they're looking at statistics. And if those statistics are saying straight white men are the vast majority of sales, then they're going to give the male audience a bone, i.e. eye candy. They're also going to throw in enough things to get the stragglers, because League of Legends is trying to be goddamned baseball. You don't know this, Anita Sarkeesian, because you don't pay any goddamn fucking attention. You know what would be an interesting conversation to have? I've never seen a pro female League of Legends player. That actually might be something worth investigating. But you don't. You fixate on this little shit. Why has this got to be the most important shit in the world? What dumb fictional characters decide to wear based on what horrible male put them in the yada yada. Like, that's where I get on the same boat as these scumbags I don't agree with. I don't agree with Sargon. I don't agree with fucking Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head. But when you make anthills into mountains over these little tiny issues, and in the same breath pull out a big actual issue, it diminishes the big issue. And I'm not saying this because I need you to porridge this out to me like I'm a dum-dum. But again, I feel like you were done with this back when the episodes were 25 minutes apiece.
This isn't just boring, it's harmful. It links our value as human beings within the culture to our desirability to men, and it reinforces our culturally influenced ideas about who gets to be considered desirable and who doesn't. The problem is exacerbated by the fact that when we do see representations of women with different body types, they're often presented as a joke, as in Fat Princess.
Now, I get that. There also should have been, these guards should not have all been men. That was really, like, tone deaf as well. But, you know, developers are usually thinking, this is a cute idea, let's just do that. And they probably should have, but, you know, Fat Princess, they're going on the trope of stealing a princess. By the time this came out, though, Fat Princess was a pretty old game. And I think that indie games had moved far away from this, and I feel like this is an attempt to drag indie games back down into the mud where they don't belong, because we are getting actual... She praises indie games for having developed characters and more female protagonists, and then 2 breaths later, this. And it's like, I get it. We get that Fat Princess is an issue. Can we move on? It's more an issue. It's also an issue of obesity, and shaming and fat shaming, which is as a legitimate an issue as many of the other issues that she treats with just as much brevity, or not brevity, but like gravitas. But she doesn't give it this much gravitas because she's not fat. She's a woman. And again, I always find, I'm very Maddox-like. I find it irritating with people that can only identify with things that personally affect them. I identify with a lot of people's struggles. And if I could make things easier for people that I think are talented and genuine with a snap of my fingers, I would. Because it's not fair. But that's life and everything. And I feel like when we nitpick these tiny little details, and again, give them the same fucking gravity as things that are legitimately problems, that's where this stuff seems dumb and easy to dismiss.
Or they're pathologized and presented as a twisted transgression of the established feminine ideal, as in the case of the evil lesbian psychopath Joe Slade in Dead Rising.
Let's see just how shameless you are, you dirty little skank. Say hello to my little friend.
No, not again! When the majority of women who populate these game worlds are designed...
That's uncomfortable. I agree with that. It's a rape joke. She literally goes, not again. Jesus Christ, that's fucking darker than it needs to be. But here's the thing, man. Yep, this is Ash's skin, roughly. I don't think it's the actual one. I think it's a little different than this at the time. I can't remember. Next to Lara Croft, typically, and then Lollipop Chainsaw, who she very conveniently gets this bow right here so you can't see the boyfriend's severed head on her hip. That's weird. I think a fair representation, you'd put her over here, because her look is a lot more... You can say it's cliche if you want to, but the Lollipop Chainsaw look is very specific. So you probably put her over here and maybe put Lara Croft over here, because Lara Croft, pretty recognizable. Also, maybe actually you would put this character behind the other two, because this bow doesn't illustrate your point one way or the other, unless you're trying to cover over the one interesting dynamic thing about this character, so you can yada yada the fact that she has a flat stomach and big tits, and she's very comically. It's like we can't have any fun, and I understand why we can't have any fun, because some people had too much fun and they made it not fun for a lot of people. I understand that, but I feel like there should be a level of fun we're allowed to have. And I thought that Lollipop Chainsaw was the level of fun we're supposed to have.
Designed from the same narrow template, the problem isn't just what we're...
Also, I would argue these characters have different body types, sort of. I would say this version of Lara Croft is a little dubious, because it's not really how people see her, because she's actually more Dolly Parton-like. And her body type isn't, you know what I'm saying, it's whatever, but it's not like there's a million different harmful body types that you could have given this character that you could have just pointed out to make a joke. Like, what if they, for fun's sake, made her fat and then made fat jokes the whole time? It would be, you know what I mean? It wouldn't make any difference that she kept her boyfriend's severed head with her the whole time. But she's a bombshell. She's a knockout. She's hilariously hot. She's hot beyond reason. And she keeps her dead boyfriend, like her boyfriend's severed head with him all the time, because they're in love. And she still loves him, even though he doesn't have what you would what you might consider to be the important sexual organs for this character to have a relationship with his girlfriend. But you cover it up with a bow. It's not fair. Just be fair. That's my whole point. I know what you're trying to do. It's disingenuous and boring and gross.
Seeing in games, it's what we're not seeing. The fact that fat women and women with different body shapes aren't featured in these worlds reinforces the false notion that these women are less valuable and less worthy of recognition than those women whose bodies come closer to matching the cultural beauty standard. These limitations on creativity when it comes to female characters don't stop with body type.
I agree.
We also don't see the same range of ages commonly represented as we do with male characters.
I agree with this too.
It's not unheard of to see male soldiers, fighters, and heroes who appear to be in their 40s, 50s, and even older.
I'm older.
Playable female characters, on the other hand, are almost always young, and it's for the same reason that so many of them have the same body type. They're intended to be sexually appealing to straight male players.
I get really irritated with that line of discussion. You know, they didn't make Zoe young to get a pedophile market. They didn't make Annie an 8-year-old girl to induce a pedophile market. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you see my implication? When I play League of Legends, I'm not playing League of Legends and playing champions based on how much of a boner I get while I'm playing League of Legends. I agree. There are many games where the sexual the objectification of women is to an extreme degree. And sometimes, even though you protest that that's not the point, sometimes that is the point. Bayonetta, that's the point. I hate to be so coming back to Bayonetta, but misunderstanding Bayonetta is the line of feminism that I just can't get to anymore. It feels like in the level of TERFs, but on the opposite side. TERFs are saying only women that are born women deserve feminism. And on this other end, it's you have to, everyone needs to be represented all the time for everything. And I'm irritated because that's not true. Now, can there be more body types in women? And I suppose there will be a game that will do that, and it will be, but that's free market. And I feel like when you bitch about things that are like the surface level irritation of a thing, you're missing the underlying iceberg of the real fucking problem, and that's capitalism. So you don't make any arguments about capitalism. You don't make any arguments about systemic racism in any real way, because those arguments are hard to make. Again, the war on drugs is a perfect argument if you needed to talk about controlling minorities and women. Because everyone uses a drug. Everyone. When Trump said we should put to death opium dealers, that was a signal to Republicans that we can still use opioids to arrest black people. That's what I was under the impression. That's a way you just plant opioids on a guy and suddenly he gets the death penalty. That's really scary. It's really scary that we're polluting the planet to the point where we're all, who knows if any of this feminism is going to make any difference in 20 years, because who knows if there's going to be people. Do you see what you see? Sometimes there are problems that are just slightly more than this, and I'm not saying this isn't a problem, but fuck, there are bigger problems in this problem that should be addressed while you're talking about this problem. Because the core is, there is a sexism problem, yes. But when you chastise that this is intended straight male characters, fine. I'm not saying that, but you need to put some numbers up. You need to put some proof that the marketing team for all of these people deliberately sexually objectified women for the purposes of making money. And I know that that's what these alt-right men people want, but that's because a lot of these guys are rationalists. And if you can't provide them some kind of rational reason, they're not going to be on board with it. And I understand the emotional implication, and I'm not saying it's invalid, but you come at this in a logical way as opposed to an emotional way. You don't come at this from a personal perspective. You come at this as this is always wrong perspective. And that's where these guys that are pedantic and that need everything to make sense in a very highly logical way always fight this kind of logic. And all you needed is to hire somebody who thinks like these idiots, and you'd be fine.
The result is that we have plenty of representations of male characters who communicate that men can continue to be active, vital, and powerful over the course of their lives. Meanwhile, the absence of older playable female characters wrongly suggests that women's value is tied directly to their beauty and youth, and that when they're older, that value is all used up.
I'm not saying that there's subconsciously something to that, because there is subconsciously something to that. I'm saying, generally, people pine for their youth and make younger characters. When I write characters for comics, I tend to write them younger than myself, partly because I'm older. I remember being those ages. So at the very least, I can try to put myself in the position based on how I felt mentally in those ages. Now, I'm not saying that the reason that these games skewing older is blah, 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 yada, yada. The reason they're doing that is because audiences are getting older and they grew up on these male characters. And again, the underlying problem here is this is boring because there's no new ideas, and we need more new ideas. And I'm not saying that there's not a need for this kind of market, but at the same time, if you love capitalism so much because you're not shitting on it, and you should be shitting on capitalism. It's a big part of the reason why this is like this. But if the free market is doing this, then the free market will fix the problem, maybe. And I think it kind of did because of this outpour. Like, I think that a lot of people agreed with this enough that there has been a lot of change in the industry, but not 100%, obviously.
There aren't many good examples of prominent positive representations of women with different body types in major contemporary games.
There's getting more,
In Life
though.
is Strange, there's the minor character Alyssa, a classmate of Max, the protagonist.
I didn't know you were a sci-fi geek like us. What's your favorite?
In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, there's Agnes McBean, owner of the train which becomes the hero's base of operations.
Then may I present to you Agnes and Bertha, Lady and Locomotive.
And in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia is a great example of a capable, powerful, older female character.
I am Kreia, and I am your rescuer, as you are mine.
Let's go back to Overwatch for a moment. Since that initial reveal, a few female heroes have been added to the roster. There's Mei and Zarya, both of whom have body types that are notably different from those of the originally announced female characters.
Anna, reporting for duty.
And more recently, Blizzard announced the game's next hero, Anna, who's both an older woman and a woman of color. These characters are welcome and encouraging additions, but really they're just a start. Game developers need to continue actively working towards creating the same range and diversity of female body representations that we see among male characters.
See, and I'm not saying that that's a wrong-headed mentality, but it's like, hey, we're getting better, but then it feels like a backhanded compliment and yada, yada, yada.
When female characters' bodies are liberated from the need to uphold narrow, limiting cultural beauty standards, the resulting range of representations can not only make games themselves more interesting, it can encourage us to see all women as the desirable, valuable, autonomous, fully human individuals that we are.
All right. Again, like complaining about comic book girls looking the wrong way and all of this kind of, I feel like there are bigger issues at hand, and there are bigger specifics that are at hand. The trope of the dead girlfriend in the refrigerator is a very serious problem. And I'm not saying that the same body type on women is a huge, or isn't a problem. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like, doesn't it make more sense to point out where popular examples are differentiating in positive ways too? I feel like the positive parts of this episode were very yada yada'd over. And I think what I expected from season 2 was a check-in on some of the tropes before and after. I was hoping like a little status report, you know what I mean? I think that's what people like about those Gordon Ramsay ones where they come back and see if things are like shithole again or not. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I was more fair or less fair to Anita than I was to Shoe Head. I don't think it's because I don't want to work with Anita. I don't know. This is not going to get seen by Anita Sarkeesian because I'm just some faggot that records things. Unless she takes that out of context. Because I would kiss a certain number. There's a certain percentage of dicks that I would be kissing on. But, I can't call myself a faggot then. Even though, fuckers in my high school made a goddamn career out of that. My point being, I know this isn't going to cross Anita's path any more than my Shoe on Head video is going to hit Shoe on Head's table. Or whatever the fuck these are. And these are both equally old videos of theirs. So I'm going to look for something more recent and something more annoying to look for the next one. I'm not sure what I'm going to react to next, but probably some kind of a Christian-y thing. So I'm looking at your suggestions, and if you want to suggest someone I should react to in the future, I would be down to. And yeah, thanks for watching. I assume that I wasn't sufficiently mean to fucking Anita Sarkeesian. I think the meanest thing I can say is her videos are boring. If you're watching this live, shortly after this, I played video games on my Twitch, links are in the description for my Twitch. I think I'm going to stick the video games there because fuck YouTube. I'm trying to use YouTube as little as possible. And yeah. And if you can help me out, there's a Patreon in the doobly-doo. There are perks at different levels that change monthly, or if I have ideas or if I feel like doing some different stuff. Possibly there'll be some trash art in so that might be something you could buy. That's art on trash, very reasonably priced, but hand-painted by me, and I'll sign them and all that, date them. I'll even sign what you want me to sign on the back. I'm a good guy like that. But so if you can help me out on Patreon, just even at $1, you're going to get in the credits. I know I forgot the credits on the last three, the whole series I did on being my complicated relationship with the word faggot. And even here at the end, I guess you could call this the part 4. So here's the credits of everybody. And I'm going to actually read the credits. I'm going to read all the Patreons the day I post this one, because it's not going to be for a while. So if you're a Patreon and you're waiting for something cool, even at $1 level right now, I'm reading all the names at the end of these Stone Vlogs and possibly at the end of the Bunny Perspective. See you guys on Twitch. Kisses, love you. And if Anita, if you are watching, I do think that I agree with you fundamentally. And I feel like there are answers to getting across to certain people. And I think if you could ever get somebody who is vehemently against your side to change their mind about you in any way, I think that might be a huge victory. But I would never ask you to change your moral, stance on anything. And I understand that just making the first run of those videos put you personally at a huge risk. And I really do appreciate those videos. As someone that really loves video games, I am very much bored of the standard female archetype. And and I am annoyed with the fact that it's okay for men always to be goofy or whatever. But I feel like we're slowly getting to the point where that's not true anymore. And I don't want girly things to go away. I happen to like girly things to be near me. I like it. I don't want to be girly specifically, aside from whatever this is. I want girly things to be around me. And I don't think the aesthetic is the problem. I think the problem is complacency. I think the problem is assumptions of audience. And I think the problem is laziness. And I think that they're very fixable problems. And I respect the hell out of you, but your videos are... And I respect the hell out of you, but your videos are fucking boring as hell. Maximum sassiness. Thanks, Jim Sterling, for the joke. Bye. All right. One person, if you're interested, my Twitch is in the description. That's where I'll be streaming games. I don't know what game I'm playing yet. Horror, probably. Narrative, probably. See you